Well, we are blessed today to have several individuals from the St. James School in Philadelphia with us. Some of you may know that we partner with a variety of different organizations and institutions throughout the world. Internationally, we partner with a diocese and a church in Tanzania. Nationally, we partner with the St. James School in Philadelphia, and we partner with a bunch of different local organizations here as well. And this is how we can do the work of God in the world through these great transformative nonprofits and other institutions. So today we have, as I said, a group from St. James, and they're going to introduce themselves, and they're also going to talk a little bit about what is going on at the St. James School. Some ways to even call it a school is not quite right anymore because it's bigger than a school. And a lot of amazing things have happened since the last time that Dave was here. So he's going to tell us some more about that. And then you're going to have an opportunity to ask some questions, and we'll just sort of talk about what's happening in the school and in the area. So I'll turn it over to you, Dave.
Great.
You're already mic'd. I think.
And what we're going to do, hi everyone, it's good to see you all. What we're going to do is, I just give you about an 8 to 10 minute overview of St. James, because I know some of you are new to St. James, but some of you know it and could actually stand here and probably tell folks at St. Paul's about St. James. So a little bit of overview of St. James, and then maybe I could switch seats with Justin. He can come here and I'll sit there, and he can ask my colleagues some questions and just have some dialogue today. So the best part of this is the conversations. So just a raise of hands. Raise your hand if you're fairly familiar with St. James already. Okay, good. So that's wonderful. And a few of you that are new. So a few updates about St. James and just a little bit about who we are. Actually, keep on this slide. Justin's absolutely correct once again. St. James is more than just a school. And I think that's what you're going to hear a lot about today, is how we've become and why we've become more than a school. In fact, you're going to be seeing, as we continue to partner together, some things that are coming down the pike where our logo may look a little different in the next couple of years, or school may be there or not be there. It may be called something else, because school is just one aspect of what we do. Zaire will end. Yeah, thank you. So our mission, St. James is a faith-based educational community deeply rooted in transformative, loving relationships. That's our mission statement. And I love that mission statement because we have the word love in it. Right? And how many mission statements of organizations have the word love in it? Right? And, in terms of like organizational management and leadership and nonprofits and corporations, it sounds kind of weak, right? A little fuzzy, a little warm and fuzzy. Love, that's nice, right? We all know as Christians that love is the hardest work to do in our world. So that's what we do. Vision, a world without inequities. So the good news is that's our vision. The bad news is we're never going to see that in our lifetime. But we're working towards that, right, Zaire? So just some, it's hard for you to see the statistics, but just a few highlights of, why are we here at St. James, right? So why are we here? Unfortunately, like a lot of major cities in our country, we're experiencing some challenges with education. So in Philadelphia, over 24% of residents in Philadelphia live at or below the poverty line, right? It's very similar to other major cities in our country. Reading and math. So these are 2022 numbers, just to give you context. So 36% of students in Philadelphia public schools are reading at grade level, and just 22% are proficient, just 22% in math, right? So another issue is just funding in Philadelphia. All right? So our funding model isn't working in Philadelphia. So compared to our suburban districts, it's a result of the results of poverty and the impact of the ripple effect of poverty, right? And also the tax base issue, right? And then college and graduation rates in Philadelphia, only 69% of students in Philadelphia are actually graduating from high school. So the good news is that number has come up. When we started St. James, we were at around 50%, right? And that was 2008, 9, 10, those kind of numbers. That was around the economic downturn, around that time. So we're seeing improvement, but it's still not a good number. Zairi? Thank you. So I'm not going to go through all the history of St. James, but just some images here that will help remind you of our history and what we're about. We're in our 14th year as a school, about 16 years of ministry on the closed property of the Church of St. James the Last. Just a refresher that the church was closed, abandoned, and for sale. And the vision was to build condominiums on the church side, and the proceeds would have gone back to the diocese, right? So a group of folks, 3 of us there on the top right, you can't see well, but Father Sean Mullen, Dr. Audrey Evans, and I were the first to kind of start this. And we had a lot of wonderful people around us to start this model, this new idea of a school in Philadelphia. I can't help but recognize Dr. Audrey Evans. Just Google her name when you get home, but she's the founder of the world's first Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia. And do Google her name, because next month her name's going to be much more well-known in our country, because there's going to be a movie that's going to be released about her life in the late 60s, early 70s. And it was the founding story of Ronald McDonald House. Natalie Dormer plays Audrey. If you're familiar with, can't think of the movie now, just lost it. Game of Thrones, right? So she was the lead in Game of Thrones. Audrey brought her approach to holistic education, right? She would sit with us and insist at 85 years old that we look at her model of education. And her model was this, simple. She would draw a circle, write the name of a child in the middle, and then she would do an exercise with us and say, okay, here's a child that doesn't have access to resources because of certain things, right? What does that child need to thrive, right? Food, consistent schedule, homework help, good teachers, resources for music and art, all of the things, a social worker, nurse practitioner, all the things that allow a student to thrive. But extraordinary woman. Do spend some time reading about her. We started with a summer camp, then an after-school program. We opened with 5th grade in 2011. We eventually went down to 4th grade, so now we're 4th through 8th grade, essentially a middle school, and diving a little bit into elementary years. Today, serving 94 students, so that has gone up. Last year when I was here, we were at 85 students, so we have been able to create a little bit more space to increase our enrollment just a tad. We have 185 graduates. The oldest graduates are about 24 years old, and we partner with about 310 families that we have relationships with. And our system that we have in supporting and engaging with families after graduation, we have 5 people that maintain relationships with 310 families. So it's a lot of work to kind of manage that. Next slide, Zairi. So just a little bit about us, and then we'll go on. I'll introduce you to our guests, and we can have a little discussion. So, what are we trying to do here at St. James? We're trying to create a place that, think in your own mind. And this is a question for you. This is a good question to get some conversation going. Tell me, think for 5 seconds, name a teacher that you loved in middle school or elementary school that inspired you. Just think for 5-10 seconds. Just shout out a name. Mr. and Mrs.
Miss Miller.
Have anybody? Absolutely. Miss LaRue. Mrs. Lang, right? Think about why you just named that teacher and what they did for you, right? Unfortunately, a lot of children don't have access to teachers that care as much as the teachers that really challenged us, right? So that's what we're trying to do. A place where we have teachers that love coming to work every day. They love their craft. They love teaching, like Miss LaRue, math, right? And then we're providing all the resources that the best school can provide, right? So we are tuition free, small class sizes, extended week and year. We're open till 5 p.m. every day. We have Saturday school. We're open 11 months out of the year, right? So a lot of hours and minutes dedicated to education. We can go to the next slide. And this is kind of what Justin was alluding to. So we're more than a school. And I won't go through all of this today. But so yes, we have St. James School, but we also have the Wellness Center, nurse practitioner, social emotional care, therapy, counseling, coaching. We have the Servant Year program, which we'll hear more about. Renee is a member of that. Someone could plug that in the back. That'd be helpful. Yeah, thank you. Servant Year program. So we have a residential group of teachers. We have the Church of St. James the Less, which is now an active church. We have the Welcome Table, which is our social services arm of St. James. So pro bono legal services, adult education, all the things that parents and guardians may need. That's one of the things we realized was that, yes, we were supporting the child, but we were listening to mom say, you know, I would love to go back to high school, or I would love to think about advancing my nursing certificate to a phlebotomy certificate or degree. Right? So we work with families around that. So this is kind of the St. James tree. Okay? And then if you go to the next slide, I described this already, but it's important for you to know that our attendance rate is really high. So this is another issue in our country is if you looked at any statistics about attendance in schools, not just under-resourced schools, but attendance really makes a difference. So our attendance rate is really nice and high at St. James. Next slide. I don't know if you saw that last number on that last slide. We have 42 staff members for 94 students. Right, so that says probably a lot about the resources we're giving our students and our families. So I would love to stop here, and I think I'll have Justin, because this goes into math. And the reason I have a slide on math is because we are pushing math at St. James really hard. So the goal is that every student takes Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Any mathematicians here? Anybody love math? Right? Great. Anybody terrified of math or just avoid it at all costs? Right. We say at St. James, what do we say? We say, I'm not good at this yet. We say yet a lot, right? So we try to create an environment where math is not so scary. It just seems like science, the social studies, religious studies, the other subjects, students tend to gravitate to and could feel comfortable with it. So we have a real strong emphasis on math, especially with our young women. We have a program called Black Girls Love Math, right? And it's a program that other black scientists, mathematicians, women that are coming in to allow our young women to come to love math and not to be afraid of it, to ensure that we have more women of color in the science fields. Right? So I'm gonna trade with Justin so we can have a little discussion. Anxious for you to meet our visitors today. I think you're going to enjoy having a conversation with them.
Well, thank you, Dave. So as I said, that's Dave Kasievich. He's the head of the school, and as you heard, one of the 3 founders of the school. We're going to do an introduction now for our other guests. We have a mic right there. So just, we'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe how you came to the St. James School.
My name is Renee Clark. And
I think so. Okay. Is it on?
I think so.
Yeah. You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
My name is Renee Clark, and I'm part of our Servant Year program, which is our Philadelphia component of the Episcopal School, which is a national program geared towards young adults, mostly just out of college, to have some sort of service here. So I just graduated from Georgetown up in DC in May, and then I'm now at St. James through the Servant Year program. I live in a house on campus with 4 other Servant Year members, and we all work at the school. So 3 of my housemates work at the schoolhouse in religious studies or in math classrooms, social studies classrooms. I work at our welcome table, which is our food sharing mechanism, as well as adult ed center. It's our social services component of St. James. And I also work half the time in our Office of Advancement, so telling the story of St. James and sharing it with people.
And what prompted you, Renee, to enter the Servant Year program at St. James?
So the way the Episcopal Service Corps works is that they want to give you an introduction to all that the church offers to its young people by the Service Corps. So Andrew Kellner, who's the director of our servant year program, he reached out to me and started to talk to me about this place at St. James. And for me, at Georgetown, I had read and written and even volunteered a lot about issues of economic and racial justice. But it was at St. James that I really felt like love was at the center of that work of justice. And I saw adults that were senior in their career and working toward justice in a particular community. And the focus was always on deep relationships. That it mattered to us, that our families mattered to us, our neighbors mattered to us. And so I thought out of college, that's what I wanted to do. And then I'm also in a period of discernment to potentially become an Episcopal priest. And so the kind of mentorship and justice work that we're doing at St. James is right at the heart of those questions that I'm asking.
That's wonderful, Renee. Thank you. All right, let's pass along here. Just introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about, for you all, some takeaways about your experience at St. James. So you're graduates. What are one or two things that you think folks should know about the St. James School?
My name is Rector. I came here 2 years ago, I believe, to do sales here. It's a great experience. I could give probably a million takeaways about St. James. It does great with their graduate support. Like once you graduate from St. James, they help you with possible grants that you could get from colleges. If you have problems like living, they can help you out with that. Have great sportsmanship, and it also helps you with a lot of other things that may be personal. But other than that, St. James is a really good school for your kids to go to.
So emphasizing that holistic mention that Mr. Kasievich was talking about, right? Yeah. Great, thank you. I think it's on, yeah. Just got to speak up.
Hello, my name is London. I am a junior at William School. I graduated in the class of 2022. So there are again a lot of things that you could really take away from an experience at St. James. But the thing that I always remember is, despite you having every single one of your classes being with all of the students in your grade, it always felt as if every single class was personalized for you. Like, the teachers were always willing to set some time aside to assist you, to help you understand the material better. It was always an environment that encouraged questions, but I remember Miss S. Carroll, she might have said it once and I don't think she remembers, ever saying that she was our ELA teacher. But there was one time where she told us there are no dumb questions. And it always kind of stuck with me as a person who's not really good at asking for help. It's kind of like a deep-rooted thing that I've never really been good at, but I always try to keep that in mind because it's hard asking for help. It really is, but St. James really creates an open environment where even if you feel as if a question has already been answered like a million times, you're never ashamed for not understanding something, and they'll make sure that you do understand it eventually.
That's great. All right, well, let's take this opportunity to see if you all have any questions for the graduates or for Renee or Dave, wherever he popped out to for a moment. Oh, there he is. About the school, and you've heard a little bit about some of its expansion. I don't know, Dave, if you mentioned it, I don't remember, but recently the school purchased additional property. Royal Electric may be up here. And so there's a lot of discernment about what that property will be used for. And I think one of the things that you all heard in this is that the education of the children in this community that the school serves is really a holistic activity. It means it has to touch on a variety of different things going on in the community. It's not simply a school, right? You think about all the ways in which our children in this community benefit from a variety of different institutions and networks and all of that. So part of what the St. James School does now, I think especially, is reach into those areas and create that climate or that culture that allows kids to flourish. But what questions do you have for Dave or for our graduates or for our budding Episcopal priest here? Yes. Mm.
And second to that, would most of the graduates from St. James go to like public charters or traditional public schools or private?
Sure. I'll get it started in London, and Zaire can pick up on this. But
Dave, why don't you come
yeah,
stand?
so this property, see where the trees are, right? So that's our existing property. And the warehouse to the left is what we just purchased, right here. And, you know, the question has been, I forgot your first name, sorry. Jeff, that, well, are you going to open a high school? And I think 15 years ago when we got this started, I would have said yes, let's open a high school. But now the answer is no, because we've built such great partnerships with high schools throughout the region. And we're very, Philadelphia is a big city, so it's very saturated with a lot of really great high schools. So we've had 15 years to, as I often say, arm wrestle the high schools for really great scholarships. So I don't want to, we have great partnerships. So not high school, but we're thinking about, and Justin's on our board of directors, we're discussing going down to kindergarten or even pre-K. So that's what we're thinking about. But maybe just a word or two from you, London and Zaire, about just a sentence or two about, or more, about how did you choose the high schools that you're in now, or were? And how did St. James, how were they a part of that?
Okay, so I go to William Penn Charter School, which is a charter school. So it's a private institution that also gets government funding. When I was going through that high school decision process and application process, I actually really wanted to go to boarding school. It was something that I had wanted to do for years. There was a high school all the way in Mississippi that I wanted to go to. It was an art school. It had amazing composition programs, but my father wouldn't even let me go that far. I don't think he even wanted me to he didn't want me going to a boarding school at all, let alone one out of the state. But so that was kind of out of the picture. But I still had applied because I knew that I wanted a very personal education, similar to the one that I got from St. James. So when I had gone into Penn Charter, and I had seen the small class sizes, but also the assistant center, so the writing center, the math center, and the science center. I had seen how much effort they had put into really helping the students further their education on a personal level, similarly to the way that St. James did. So I guess when it came to deciding where I wanted to go, having that personal assistance really.
Now, how many high schools did you apply to?
17.
There we go. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. So, do you remember how did you find the high school that you selected through St. James?
I found it by the name of someone named Dante Guess. He is our graduate support member at St. James. He has done a lot for me, but not only me, a lot of the other graduates. He helped me find a school to apply to called El Centro, which is also, I believe it's also close with another huge school called Big Picture. They are very close to each other. He told me that school would be a great fit for me. It would be helpful for my possible career job, and it will help me grow to further my journey. I have graduated from that high school, and now I am a cybersecurity analyst, and I am the assistant CEO of the Worcester. And
right.
St. James helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and yes, and so London, you're putting your humble hat on. So William Penn Charter School is not a charter school. It was chartered by William Penn, and it is the most really the most prestigious, oldest Quaker school in the country. So I think your scholarship is in the upwards of $45,000 or something like that. But really extraordinary school. Yeah. So.
Jeff, I think you had asked like percentages or how many kids go to private schools versus public schools, right? So what's the breakdown on that?
Yeah, it's around 35%, and each class is a little different, but are going to private, I would say private or Catholic, like diocesan schools. The rest are going to boarding schools, and then another group, about a third, are going to, traditional charter schools, right, or trade schools, schools that have a specific path for either the culinary arts or building trades. We have a wonderful partnership with Mercy Career and Technical School, which is right across the street. So we have about 22 students there, and I think one of the most popular paths are either the health trades, nursing or medical kind of fields, and cosmetology is really popular also.
But few, if any, would be going to what I would call the traditional neighborhood.
None. No one's going back to the public system. It's not that I'm a big fan of public education. It's just not where, right? It's not where we want to go. And someday we hope and pray that Strawberry Mansion High School and the other high schools in our neighborhood are better. But until then, our kids can't go there.
Two questions. First, is there a relationship with another church as it is with St. Paul's? And then I'm curious, do you have a waiting list, so to speak, of students that want to?
Sure, yeah. So we have many partnerships with churches, not just Episcopal churches, but other denominations. I would say you are you're the only church in Virginia that we have a partnership with. So you're number one in Virginia. And we all know why, right? We know that Justin has brought St. James to this place. And this place, if I could speak for Justin, this place, St. James really stole his heart, right? Many years ago. And it's kind of like I have the same passion that Justin has for St. James. We have to get the word out, right? And also, especially, we need to get the word out in the Episcopal Church. Now, the presiding bishop visited our school a couple years ago, and he walked to the top of the steps, and he said, Michael Curry, right? He said, "This is wonderful." He's like, "We should have at least 60 of these schools across the country." Right. For as resourced as the Episcopal Church is, and even our size, we should have at least 60. There are only 6 schools like St. James in the Episcopal denomination.
And one is in Richmond.
That's right.
There is one in Richmond.
Is there a waiting list?
Oh yeah, and a waiting list, yes. We have, there are 5,200 and some middle school kids that would be eligible for St. James in the zip code 19132. So we're never going to have any admissions issues, sadly. Yeah. Yeah, so to get into St. James, admissions requirements, students have to live in the neighborhood. So how many blocks would you say that when you attended St. James? Well, you're still in the same house, right? Yeah.
So
You're about 10 blocks. Close. Close.
I would say like 5 or 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6. So students have to live in the neighborhood. We're not a regional school or a citywide school. The closer the students live to St. James, the more access. We have Saturday school. We have Sunday programs. So, and then 2, students must qualify financially. So if the family can afford a tuition-driven school, then that's where they should go, right? So students must qualify financially. And third, our 2 graduates, great example. Every family has to have someone that's going to advocate for their child and say, yes, I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to come to meetings. So Zairee's mom, heavily involved at St. James during his time at St. James. London's parents, heavily involved and still involved at St. James. So that when we have I call it the Trinity working for us, the the family, the school, right, and the child all on the same page, magical things can happen.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
I'm curious, what do you attribute the increase in graduation rates? That's impressive.
Yeah, the funding, there's some charts that can show you the funding has been increasing in Philadelphia. It's very tense in Pennsylvania because the amount of funding that Philadelphia is getting over some other districts in Pennsylvania. But the need is higher. It's just how you measure it. Right. So definitely funding has increased. And also the school district has done a better job with targeting, there was a 5-year period where they targeted 10 schools. And they, I don't know how they did this with the unions, but they extended the school day, increased the quality of the food, added music and art programs. I mean, we're talking very little music and art programs in our public schools. And also just adding things like uniforms and some things to ensure that students are focused on education. So there's been glimmers of hope there. Things are improving.
What is the graduation rate? Do you know it for Strawberry Mansion High School?
High school graduation rate. And it was in the teens when we started St. James. It's probably in the 30, I don't know. I would say probably 30-some% or so. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very low. Okay. Yeah. What other questions do we have? Yeah, Jeff.
I'm wondering if now, especially with these expansion plans, I know it's not the mission of the school to do this, but to what extent St. James offers employment opportunities for people?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be part of the plan going forward. We have around 40 employees. We have about 12 employees like Zaire. So Zaire's on payroll. He's what's your title? CEO? COO? Yeah, of the wood shop, right? So he does this work on the weekends. And he sees, he'll receive a W-2. He probably received them last year. So we have some employees that are from the neighborhood or graduates, but it could be part of the growth strategy down the road. What we do is a little expensive, right? So it's a funding model question. You can't see these numbers, but there we go. So you can see the growth of our funding. So in 2019, we had a $2.7 million budget. This year, we're at 6.2. So that's a significant growth. And our funding, most of it, 40%, is from a tax credit program. I have two asks for you today. Well, we'll get back to talking to folks. Two asks. One, to pray for us. Two, if you know anyone, relatives, families, coworkers that live in Pennsylvania, introduce me to them. Because in Pennsylvania, we have an opportunity for individuals to redirect. I do this myself. I owe about $5,000 in state taxes. I can redirect that to St. James School. I'll say that again because it's mind-boggling. Right? My personal $5,000 a year goes to St. James School. And you can do that in Pennsylvania. And so honestly, if you do know, our folks that were hosting us this morning have relatives in Pennsylvania. Right. And so consider that. So this is our funding model. What you don't see in here is an endowment, right? So this will be the first year that we have income coming from an endowment that we started. So we're around $6 million endowment, which doesn't get you very far, but it's $110,000 this year of income from the endowment. The goal is somewhere between a $30 and $40 million endowment, which would fund about a third of our operating budget.
Dave, it might just be interesting to mention. So you talked about the program in Pennsylvania where you can allocate some of your state income taxes. You might be wondering how does the state finance its operations then? That was the question I had. And it's up to a limit, right? What is it, 100 million?
Yeah, around 100, a little over 100 million.
So the state just says, we're going to take $100 million that would have gone into our coffers to operate, and we're going to let people reallocate that to charitable giving, basically.
To just schools.
To just school. Okay, just schools, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought churches, but yeah, Jeff. Oh, great question.
Wow, that's another coffee hour. Or that's another adult forum. The short version is frustration. I was working at a charter school in Philadelphia, and my job, besides serving as the director of development, was to attend the bi-monthly SRC meetings, which is the School Reform Commission. I don't know what you call it in Charlottesville, but it's the school district's bi-monthly meeting of the board, and it was open to the public. And every charter school sent one employee to represent the school. I did that for 2 years. The most depressing, frustrating conversations around education I've ever heard. 5% of the conversations were about children. The 95% of it was, how do we extend the day by 4 minutes? How do we get around the union that doesn't allow for healthier, better food for lunches? Constant roadblocks at these meetings. And this was so freeing for me to know that I could be a part of starting a school without any barriers. Without any, we decide how our day is going to look. So this year we decided to have morning recess at 7:30. We didn't have to talk to the union. We didn't have to, and staff, volunteered to help. Right. So I was frustrated, and this allowed us to do something to address some of the challenges.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
What's the earned revenue there?
Yeah. Where do you see that? Oh, yes. Good question. I don't know.
To be determined.
Yeah, it's kind of TBD. So we have some earned. It's not even worth reporting, but so we have some rental things we do in this new building, but it's less than 5%. But it's something we're dreaming about. Could there be, and any of you business majors or entrepreneurial type folks here, we need some help thinking about what could be some revenue streams besides endowment, besides a tax credit program, and besides individuals, right? In this parish alone, there are about 4 people that give regularly to scholarships at St. James. That's great, but it may not be sustainable, for the long term. So we have to think about what could be some earned revenue streams. As much as I love selling, we love selling the honey, it's not going to fund a $50,000 scholarship at St. James. That's how much we spend per child, is $50,000.
I have a question about the service.
Yeah.
Is that just a one-year commitment? Can you extend that? Is it indefinite?
Oh, we hope she extends it for 5 years.
So the Episcopal Service Corps, for most of the corps nationally, it's a 1-year commitment. And then at most corps, including the one in Philadelphia, including servant year, you can extend for a 2nd or 3rd year. One thing that's been really nice for me, that's helped me feel very welcome in the community, is we have servant year members who are doing a 2nd year. So they're living in the house, they're great housemaids, and they know how all the little tricks with the Prius, or this is how the sink runs, or something like that. But then also, this is a engaging community. This is good work to be part of. And so folks stick around for full-time employment, I think for Shelby Rowe, or to volunteer on the weekends with the welcome table, even after they've gone on to a different place for work full-time. So short answer, 1 year, but a lot of people have extended.
Do you choose St. James, or did you choose the service corps as sort of closer to St. James?
So I chose to apply to 3 sites nationally. I then met with each of the program directors at those sites. I had a conversation with Andrew. I never thought after college that I would go work at a school. That wasn't on my radar. I was in theology and government double major, so I thought I would do something in the private sector, something maybe at a nonprofit. But Andrew said, well, you can go to this church in Center City, or let me tell you about St. James. And it was a really compelling place to spend time.
I tell parents and grandparents, some of you may not like this, but I tell 20 or those in college, just don't jump in to the job world, like right after college. Take a year to do something like this. It's just the drive to get that job right after college. Renee has a job, and it's more than what her counterparts are probably doing at corporations, right? And her resume is going to look 1,000 times better than a first year of working at pretty much anywhere, because we're throwing so much at you, right? There's a lot. I'm hoping and praying that some of the young people that have been coming and serving from St. Paul's at St. James, we talk a lot about servant year. I'm hoping that some folks here will join the program.
Yeah, Karen.
Is this something that you know about when you were in college, or how did you find out about it? And is this something someone
So the way it worked for me was I went to Georgetown, which is a Jesuit institution, and I loved the Jesuits, and they were so wonderful and kind and helpful for my formation. I mean, it's a funny thing that it was a Roman Catholic priest that put it in my head to become an Episcopal priest. But they have the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. So this idea of like a service year had been in my brain from university. But there were other programs available to me, right? Like AmeriCorps, other kinds of service years. But I became an Episcopalian in college. And I really wanted to spend more time learning how the Episcopal Church works and embedding myself in how service looks like, how service looks for Episcopalians. And so I then learned about the Episcopal Service Corps. It's a small national program. It's administered by the national church, by the Episcopal Church, but maybe I think there are 6 active sites around the country. And I'll say, I think St. James has a really special, you get to do really special work at St. James. It's really meaningful. I feel like there are skills that I'm learning and building that are actually useful to then go on to a next job with, to say, I know how to write an article for an annual report, or I know how to meet with foundations and talk about a mission. And so that's how it happened. And then timeline-wise, I knew that I wanted to do a service year, so I was very relaxed in my senior fall, unlike my peers who were recruiting at different kinds of corporations. And then you apply for the Episcopal Service Corps in the spring of the year that you graduate, and you continue on then that next year, if you're going straight through to that from college. But it's open to young adults as late as, I think, 30. So if you've done some time at a job and you're wanting to have a year to kind of redirect and think about next steps, it can be a great opportunity for that as well.
And we have some graduates that are interested in applying also.
And they're integrated into all the different aspects of the St. James experience. They're leading worship, they're helping out kids in a variety of ways, teaching classes, as you heard, volunteering in different ministries and activities.
This is a cute story, but this past Friday night, we had our Family First Friday. So we're really committed at St. James, right? Not only the whole student, but the whole family and the whole community. We invited folks for a bonfire. And so we had like 3-year-old little cousins roasting their first marshmallow and all this really fun family stuff. And that's entirely run by the servant years. So we did all the procurement, did all the setup for it. There were no supervisors there. And that's the kind of like autonomy that you get to have as a servant year, which is great. And it makes a really fun impact in the community.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, but thank you all for being with us today. And our friends from St. James will be with us at the service and afterwards, so they would love to chat with you some more. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.